Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into a set of reports from Federated Hermes ETF Trust, and let me tell you, it is packed with more numbers than a casino. We're going to decode what these financial statements actually mean for these investment funds. If you want to stay ahead of the curve with insights straight from SEC filings, make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell. And hey, if you are looking for a deeper dive and want to chat about finance with other enthusiasts, join our Discord community. The link is in the description below. Alright, let's get into it. Federated Hermes ETF Trust is essentially a family of investment funds, and these reports are like their yearly checkups, showing us how each fund has been doing financially. They've got several funds listed here, and while they all have slightly different focuses like small cap or large cap growth, the core financial picture is what we're after today. The first section is all about reports to stockholders. Think of this as a more direct communication from the fund managers to the investors. They talk about the fund's performance, its costs and key statistics. For example, they mention the costs of a $10,000 investment, which gives you a real-world idea of what you might be paying. Boring stuff if you just want the headlines, but crucial for understanding where your money is going. Let's look at some of the key fund statistics for the Federated Hermes MDT Small Cap Core ETF. The net assets at the 31st of August 2025 were $30,571,164. That is a pretty good chunk of change. The number of investments was 300, which is a decent diversification for a small cap fund, and the portfolio turnover rate was 50%. This means they bought and sold half of their investments within the year, showing an active management style. Next up, we have fund holdings. This is where they break down what the fund actually owns. They show top sectors for specific funds, for instance, with percentages of net assets. This helps you understand where the fund's money is concentrated. For the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Growth ETF, information technology accounted for a massive 51.9% of their assets. That is a big bet on tech, which can be great when tech is booming, but also risky if the sector falters. Now we're looking at the financial statements for the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Core ETF. This is where the real meat is. You can see the net assets at the 31st of August 2025 were $55,619,079. That is a substantial amount. The portfolio turnover rate was 43%. Let's zoom into the portfolio of investments. For this fund, the information technology sector is also a dominant force at 32.0%. Financials come in second at 15.2%. So again, a significant focus on technology. They list individual holdings, but for us, understanding the sector allocation is key to getting the big picture. Here we have the statement of assets and liabilities. At the 31st of August 2025, the investment in securities at value was $55,325,520. That is the total value of all the stocks and bonds the fund owned. The cash was $269,218. Liabilities were very small, just $11,946. This means the fund is really just holding investments. And the net asset value per share at the end of the period was $31.42. This is the value of one share of the fund. It is important because it is what investors are buying and selling at on the stock exchange, though the market price can sometimes be higher or lower than this net asset value. The statement of operations tells us about the fund's profitability over the 6 months. Investment income in the form of dividends was $149,027. The net realized and unrealized gain losses on investments and in-kind redemptions was $2,863,608. This shows the fund made money from its investments going up in value and from how it handled in-kind redemptions, which is a technical term for how they trade shares of the fund. The statement of changes in net assets shows how the fund's total value grew or shrank. For the 6 months ended the 31st of August 2025, the change in net assets resulting from operations was $2,973,484. Plus, they had a huge $34,603,591 gain from share transactions, meaning a lot of new money came into the fund. That is a significant increase in net assets. Now let's check out the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Growth ETF here. The net assets were a whopping $242,460,101. That is a much larger fund compared to the last one we looked at. The portfolio turnover rate was 42%. In this fund's portfolio of investments, information technology is by far the largest sector, clocking in at a staggering 51.9%. This is a very concentrated bet on technology stocks. Consumer discretionary comes next at 12.6%. Looking at the statement of assets and liabilities for this fund, the investment in securities at value was $241,224,903. That is the core of this fund's value. Cash was $1,232,718. Liabilities were very minimal at $81,375. The net asset value per share here was $31.27. Again, this is the underlying value of each share. For the statement of operations, investment income from dividends was $538,158. The net realized and unrealized gain losses on investments and in-kind redemptions was a massive $39,289,200. This is a huge jump, indicating a very strong performance period for their investments. The statement of changes in net assets shows an impressive change in net assets resulting from operations of $39,433,133. On top of that, they saw $191,236,605 from share transactions, meaning investors poured a lot of money into this fund. This fund grew substantially during this reporting period. Let's shift gears to the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Value ETF. The net assets here were $35,449,080. The portfolio turnover rate was 42%, similar to the growth fund. For the portfolio of investments in this value fund, financials take up a large chunk at 23.6%, healthcare is second at 12.6%, and industrials are at 13.2%. This sector allocation aligns with a value investing strategy, often favoring more established companies in these sectors. In its statement of assets and liabilities, the investment in securities at value was $35,239,936. Cash was $174,492. Liabilities were very low again at $9,529. The net asset value per share was $30.3. The statement of operations shows investment income from dividends at $276,662 and a net realized and unrealized gain loss on investments in kind redemptions and foreign currency transactions of $2,217,202. This fund also had a solid positive gain. The statement of changes in net assets for this fund shows a change in net assets resulting from operations of $2,444,083. They also had a significant $7,790,824 from share transactions, indicating continued investor interest. Finally, the Federated Hermes MDT Small Cap Core ETF. Its net assets were $30,571,164. The portfolio turnover rate was 50%, suggesting an active strategy common in small cap investing. The portfolio of investments for this small cap fund shows financials are the largest sector at 19.5%, healthcare follows at 16.5%, and industrials at 17.2%. This diversified approach across sectors is typical for a fund aiming for long-term capital appreciation in the small cap space. In this fund's statement of assets and liabilities, investment in securities at value was $30,413,999. Cash was $149,938, and liabilities were minimal at $7,925. The net asset value per share was $29.12. For the statement of operations, investment income from dividends was $93,661, and the net realized and unrealized gain losses on investments and in-kind redemptions was $3,185,400. Despite the name, this fund also showed a significant gain. The statement of changes in net assets shows a robust change in net assets resulting from operations of $3,250,110. They also experienced a large inflow of $15,148,448 from share transactions. Throughout these reports, you will notice a section called Evaluation and Approval of Advisory Contract. This is essentially the fund's board of directors reviewing and approving the management company's contract. They look at the services provided, performance, fees, and profitability, making sure it is all fair and reasonable. It sounds like a lot of busy work, but it is a crucial oversight step to protect investors. They specifically mention looking at peer group data to ensure fees are competitive. This also details how the advisory contract fee is determined. The investment advisor fee is usually a percentage of the fund's net assets. For example, for the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Core ETF, it was an annual fee of 0.39% of average daily net assets. The report also details expense limitations and voluntary waivers of fees, which is good for investors as it lowers costs. Looking back at the statement of operations for the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Growth ETF, the net realized and unrealized gain loss on investments and in-kind redemptions was a cool $39,289,200. That is a huge number, showing this fund had a very strong period. This fund is heavily invested in technology, so it really benefited from the strong tech market. The net assets for the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Growth ETF were $242,460,101. That is a massive fund, and the gains from this period really pushed it to new heights. The change in net assets resulting from operations for this fund was $39,433,133. So operations were incredibly successful. The Federated Hermes MDT Small Cap Core ETF had a net assets of $30,571,164. It is smaller than the large cap funds, but still a significant size. The portfolio turnover rate of 50% means they are actively trading. Looking at these filings as a whole, Federated Hermes ETF Trust manages several funds. And this period appears to have been very strong for them, especially for the larger growth and technology-focused funds. The information technology sector was a major driver of success, particularly for the Federated Hermes MDT Large Cap Growth ETF, which had a significant portion of its assets in that sector. Costs are generally kept in check with expense limitations and waivers, which is a positive for investors. The active management approach, indicated by the portfolio turnover rates, suggests the managers are trying to capitalize on market movements. While the filings are dense with financial data, the story that emerges is one of growth and strong performance. Particularly in technology, however, a heavy concentration in one sector like technology can also present significant risk if that sector underperforms. The value-oriented funds also showed positive results, indicating a balanced performance across different investment strategies within the trust. It is clear that Federated Hermes is focused on managing these funds effectively and transparently, providing detailed financial information for investors. All in all, the reports show healthy funds with diligent oversight from the board and a significant reliance on the technology sector for growth. Alright, that is our deep dive into the Federated Hermes ETF Trust filings. What are your thoughts on the performance of these funds, especially that big information technology bet? Let us know in the comments below if you found this breakdown helpful. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more in-depth looks at corporate financial documents. And remember, our Discord community is the place to be for more discussions like this, so check that link in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.